Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvacharya O Santata Sachashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Thakur Ki Jai Pranse Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sidvaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuradam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shivali Lasidevi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Utale Shivadi Bhaktivedanta Swami Chinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauramani Chardi Nivashesha Shunyavadi Vasyakshadesha. So, today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 64th chapter, text 42. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yataham Praname Vipran Anukalam Samahita Tatha Namata Yuyam Cha Yo Anyata Me Sa Danda Vak Yataham Praname Vipran Anukalam Samahita Tatanamata Yuyam Cha Yon Yuttame Satandabak Yataham Praname Vipran Anukalam Samagita Yatanamata Yuyang Cha Yon Yuttame Satandabak Yataham Praname Vipran Anukalam Samagita Tatanamataku Yam Cha Yon Yuttame Satandabak. Someone else? Anyone else? Ladies? Anyone else? All right. Okay. Yata as aham I praname bow down vipran to brahmanas anukalam all the time samahita carefully tata so namata should bow down yuyam all of you cha also ya one who anyata does otherwise may by me sa he danda for punishment bak a candidate. So translation, just as I always carefully bow down to brahmanas, so all of you should likewise bow down to them. I will punish anyone who acts otherwise. So you can repeat, just as I always carefully bow down to brahmanas, so all of you should likewise bow down to them. I will punish anyone who acts otherwise. So there's no commentary by the followers of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, because Prabhupada himself didn't comment on these particular verses, because Prabhupada left this world before that. So I will read the commentaries of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Jiva Goswami on this particular verse. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, just as I pay respects, praname, you should pay respects. And Srila Jiva Goswami comments, one should not offer obeisances with disrespect or offense, but with devotion. That's a very important point. Just as I always, anukalam, offered respects with attention to all brahmanas, you should offer respects. Anyone who does otherwise will be punished by me, by Yama after death, and directly by me. So interesting verse. So again, Yataham praname viprananukalam sumakita tata namakta yuyang cha yonyata mesadanda bhak somagana timiranda sha gananjana shalakaya chakshur unmilitam yena tasmai shigurve namaha. So this particular statement is in the context of the story of King Riga, which I'm sure you've been reading over the last few days. And King Riga made a mistake. He gave the same, but actually it was accidental mistake. But still, he had to suffer and become like a lizard in the lake and in a well. And later on, Krishna had to save him. So he's showing the danger of offending a brahmana. So there's several subject matters that need to be discussed. Like, first of all, what is a brahmana? We have different conceptions, especially here in Fiji and in India, about what a brahmana is. Sometimes people think that a Brahmin is one who has this bread, right? And that's not more like Sharma, authorized by the government here, or the Rama Sabha, to perform rituals like funerals, or someone who is very expert in different verses, and entertaining everybody. So there's different understandings of what a Brahmana is. But a Brahmana really is not defined by any of those particular qualities or status that I mentioned previously. A Brahmana, the literal meaning of the word Brahmana is one who knows what? Brahman. So if a Brahmana, or so-called Brahmana, doesn't know at least Brahmiti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti, Shakyate, the three aspects of Brahman. Actually, the word Brahman, I should define that word. Means greatest. That's the technical definition of the word Brahman, the literal definition of the word Brahman. But in this particular context, it means either one who knows what? The impersonal Brahman, the localized Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. But to know Brahman doesn't mean simply theoretical knowledge. I mean, anybody can quote Bhagavad Gita. Very, very easy. But to know Brahman means vijnana. Vijnana means what? Realization. Like I can say that I know the Prime Minister here in Fiji, but I've never met him. How can I say I know him? I know of him. There's a difference. I don't know him. I know of him. You understand the difference? I know who he is, and the news, I read the news, but I don't know him at all. because I've never met him, and also because I'm not his friend. For example, to know Krishna, then one has to be, as Krishna says in Gita, Yayatamam prabhajate tam satanam bhajamaya. One has to approach Krishna with the Vakjamam abhijanati avanyas chasmi tatvataha. There's that word, tattva. Of course, tattva is the one, tattva is the spirit. So in order to know Krishna, then you have to have devotion, right? And if you don't have devotion, you can't know Krishna. So you're not a Brahmin. How about that? To know Krishna fully, in truth, tatvataha, as Krishna says in this verse. Bhaktamam avajanati avinaschasmi tatvataha. So that's really the point. So, and also, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita, we hear about Brahminical qualities, right? Everybody knows about that. Samagama bhakchojam shanti rajavamevaja Jnana-vijnanamastikhyam brahma karma swabhavajam. Famous verse, which we always recite when we're giving second initiation to people. But those Brahminical qualities that are listed are called gona qualities. They're secondary qualities. They come from those who have mukhya. They actually know Brahman. You understand? Someone can exhibit those qualities without being a Brahmin. Because they're putting on a show. And actually, in the Bhagavatam, Yashasti Bhakti Bhagavad Kinjana Savargunas Tatra Samasate Sura Arambhatasha Ritoma Mano Retainasati Davatovahi. That if someone has no devotion for Krishna, or is not a devotee, then they have no good qualities. It's an interesting verse. How can we say someone who is not a devotee has no good qualities? We can say this because someone who is not a devotee is in the modes of nature. And the modes of nature are always changing. They're in flux. Krishna in the Gita says, sometimes the mode of goodness is prominent, defeating the mode of ignorance and passion. Sometimes the mode of ignorance is prominent, defeating goodness and passion. And you get the idea. They're always changing. So someone who exhibits certain qualities of a Brahmin, but they're not devotees, certain qualities of a Brahmin, but they're not realized, their Brahminical exhibition will not be stable because the modes of nature will change. So therefore we say they don't have any good qualities. You understand? Yes, they apparently have good qualities, but because the good qualities are not part of their nature, they're part of the modes of nature that are affecting them at present, we say that they have no good qualities. Okay. So only someone who is Krishna conscious, or at least Brahman realized, or Paramatma realized, can actually be called a Brahmin. Very interesting. So, therefore, we have to understand who is a Brahmin and not be proud that we have a sacred thread or we've been initiated with second initiation. Because Prabhupada said that if someone has a sacred thread and they don't have Brahminical qualities, that they're not actually understanding Krishna or realize Krishna, they can simply be called sacred thread holders. It's interesting, isn't it? isn't it? Of course, don't do that. Don't go around and tell people, you're just a sacred thread holder, rascal. You have no Brahminical quality. No, don't do that. But in our minds, we can understand we have to have some discrimination. Not that we should accept things blindly just because something looks good. People do that. Something looks good, someone quotes a lot of verses, gives a Bhagavad Saptaha, whatever. That doesn't mean that they're a Brahmin. We have to see the qualities, the guna and karma. Tatarvarna Mashista. Guna karma vibhagasha, right? Quality and work of such a person. That's actually how we see whether someone is a Brahmin. But still, we discriminate, but we don't commit offenses, even if someone is acting as a Brahmin and they're not a Brahmin. We have to be careful. Because a devotee is naturally, what is it? Amanina manatena. Trinadapi sunichena puro ivasishnuna. Amanina manatena kirtaniyasa hari. We don't go around pointing faults in people. Even if someone is an ordinary person, well, everybody's an ordinary person in one sense. But even if someone is just like, comes to the temple for the first time, or is an aspiring devotee, or is a neophyte devotee, we don't go around pointing faults. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that if I point my finger at you finding faults, then 4 fingers or 5 fingers will point back at me. So we have to be careful. But still, discrimination is required. Don't judge everything on face value. What comes to mind, not about Brahmanas, was during the journey to the Milk Ocean. The demons at the end took the nectar. And they were tricked by who? Mohini Murti, to give the nectar to the demigods. And so they just took everything on face value without using their judgment. Use our judgment when selecting a spiritual master or ascertaining who to take instruction from, who to reveal our minds to in confidence. So this is judgment, but at the same time, we have to be very respectful to everyone, even if they're not a Brahmin and acting like a Brahmin. So Krishna here is making this point. And the reason Krishna is respectful to Brahmins is not because he needs anything. Krishna is Swaraj. He's independent. He's aptakama. He gets whatever he wants whenever he wants. But Krishna is trying to teach us through example how to properly respect others, and especially those who are Krishna conscious. And of course we know Bhagavad Gita, there's this statement, yad yad charati shreshtas tat tat eve puro janaha. As great personalities act, everyone copies, all the world pursues. And Krishna says in this way, he sets an example in the Bhagavad Gita, he mentions this, because if he didn't act properly, then the whole world will be put into ruination. Interesting statement in the Bhagavad Gita. So that is Krishna's example, which we should follow. And especially when dealing with real brahmanas, one has to be very careful, because as Prabhupada mentions, or as actually Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati mentions, when we're dealing with a devotee, a real devotee, or he mentions at the same time, when we're dealing with the deities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he compares them to be like the sun. The sun has the ability to warm you. And nowadays to give people electricity if they have solar cells. And the sun also has the ability to kill you. It's true. It can burn you. And for those of us from the Western world, just like I've had a little operation on my head one time because too much sunshine when I was a child. So now I have to wear a hat all the time if I go out in the sun. So the sun has that ability in the same way. The association of great devotees, brahmanas, as we see in the case of King Riga, they have the ability to help us, but also they have the ability to burn us. King Riga certainly got burnt. And we see this in many cases, how if one offends a Brahmin or a devotee, I mean, there's so many stories like this. Like, there's a story of Gopal Chapala, who offended Srivas Thakur, and he got leprosy. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was approached. Can you cure me? This Gopal Chapala said to him. And Lord Chaitanya said, no. Even though I'm the most munificent, I curse you to be bitten by those same worms for like 1,000 births. Oh my God. Just a little thing, little problem he did. Another time, there was a Gopal Chakravarti who offended Haridas Thakur, who criticized him, who said, basically, you can't get Namabas simply by chanting, you can't get liberation simply by chanting Namabas. And he said, if you're wrong, Haridas Thakur, I'll cut your nose off. And Haridas Thakur said, I would cut my own nose off. But in any case, that person again got leprosy and his nose fell off. So you gotta be really careful. So that, with the deities and with the devotees. Even if a devotee has not yet even taken initiation. The Upadeshamrita says that we offer respects to anyone who chants what Hare Krishna wants in our mind. What to speak of someone who is regularly chanting Hare Krishna. But somehow or other, here in Fiji and elsewhere, we find so much criticism of devotees, and party spirit and everything like that. And what that does, it destroys our devotional service. It takes the taste for chanting away from us. And then our life becomes inauspicious. So many problems occur. We may get legal problems. We may get physical problems, diseases, so many things if we offend a Vaishnava, any Vaishnava. So when we're dealing with the deities, and not only the spiritual master, but every single devotee, then we should actually be very respectful and not critical. Not critical at all. Understanding at the same time using our judgment. Obviously, if we see a devotee who's chanting and smoking ganja, we know it. We know, take shelter of that devotee. But you don't criticize him either. You understand? He may be taking ganja, that's his problem, not yours. But we like this prajalpa so much, we like to talk like that, isn't it? We have a mentality sometimes of the flies who are simply looking for the source. Does it go maki? Yes. Not madhumaki, but mucky. We just look, there's some stool. Stool. Isn't it? of Vaishnava Aparad, the stool of criticizing others, what do you accomplish by that? Isn't it? A devotee is karna sindhu. A devotee is compassionate to everyone. A devotee is a manina manadena, offering all respects to others. And in this way, we can avoid committing offenses to brahmanas or any devotee or any living entity. Like even Mugrari the hunter, after he became realized, would not even step on an ant. And so we should cultivate this, or else we will not achieve Krishna's favor. And this is what Krishna is teaching us right here. As we chant every morning, Vanamvi Savadana Mate. Savadana means caution, take all caution. We should not be like the drivers of cars in India. The drivers of cars in India, the word Sarvadana on the sign, they go faster. When they see a red light, they go faster through it. When the police try to stop them, they bribe them. But you cannot bribe Krishna. It's not that you commit an offense and then you come to the deities and you give a little donation to get rid of your offenses. It doesn't work like that. You commit an offense. First of all, if you do commit an offense, if you are disrespectful, then you have to go to that person, touch their feet, beg forgiveness, change your mentality, and begin to serve. Just like Jagai and Madai, they committed offense against Lord Nityananda. But it wasn't enough that Lord Chaitanya simply said, I forgive you. They had to do some practical, humble service. They were given the service by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of making a bathing ghat in the Ganges River. And every day they had to clean the ghat and wash the feet of the people who were coming. So that's how you rectify it. Don't commit offense, but that's how to rectify an improper attitude towards the Vaishnavas. So please, respect each other. You understand? Respect each other. Don't offend each other. No matter what faults you may see in your brain, don't talk about it. Whatever it is. Because the mind is like the wind. Chanchalai Naha Krishna It goes here, it goes there. We're looking for faults. It makes us feel better if we can find faults in others. Be very, very careful. Okay, so on that happy note, it's interesting part, because oftentimes I think, why did that poor King Driga like that? He's a mistake. He didn't know. But Krishna is teaching us by this story to be very, very careful and examine everything. You know, if you're going to give a donation to a Brahmin, make sure you didn't take it away from another Brahmin. Check your cows before you give them away. To make sure you didn't give them away to someone else. And in other words, savadana mate, vadamvi savadana. Be very cautious. And obviously King Driga wasn't cautious. He didn't examine so carefully. So that was his fault. And also, he was blessed. Because I wouldn't mind becoming a lizard if Krishna would save me. I mean, it's actually a benediction. Whenever the sages would curse, or Brahmins would curse, it was a benediction. Just like Manigriva and Nalapuvara. I mean, I wouldn't want that because they had to stand for so many years. But a lizard, very short life, and then Krishna pulls his hand out, saves you. That would be kind of nice, isn't it? Yeah, I would love to become Krishna conscious that easily. So, in any case, anyone have any questions or comments? No? But you
Yeah, I was surprised to know, even being the Mirga tried to pacify those Brahmana, that I'll give you more flowers.
yeah, it didn't work. The bribe didn't work.
Really, I was wondering what were those Brahmanas like?
Well, I think the Brahmana was probably directed by Krishna in the heart. You know, because ordinarily one of the qualities of a Brahmana is forgiveness, right? And a Brahmana would not get angry. I mean, I know if someone gave me something and said, well, I'm sorry, I gave it to someone else, is it okay? Because one of the Brahmins' duties is actually to voluntarily embrace poverty. Because a Brahmin is supposed to understand that nothing belongs to him. You know, everything belongs to Krishna. But this particular Brahmana was inspired by Krishna in the heart to teach a lesson. It's part of Krishna's pastime. So you have to say this is Leela. Because ordinarily, Prabhupada did say, in many cases, he said a Brahmin means forgiving. One of the Brahminical qualities is forgiving. And you know, tolerance, Tatikshala, Karudika, Suvida, so they, anyway, so many qualities like that. He's a well-wisher. Someone made a mistake, forgive the guy. So you have to say, it was basically Krishna's will. And why else would it happen? So that's the only explanation I would have. Because a true Brahmin wouldn't do anything like that. True Brahmin doesn't go around cursing others. Like you hear all these stories. Actually, you hear all these stories about how the demons who fought Krishna in Vrindavan became demons. And generally, it's because they were cursed by some Brahmin, right? But when the Brahmin curses, here's another thing. Another way to look at it. The Brahmana's curse is a benediction to teach a lesson. But when Narada Muni got angry and cursed, that was to teach for blessing. It was a blessing so that they could see Krishna. Manigriva Nalakubra. So that you could look at it from that angle. This Brahmana could have been thinking, this guy needs to go back to Godhead, but he needs to learn a lesson too. Because the problem with King Nriga, I mean, if you really get into analyzing it, he was more into ritualistic stuff. You don't hear so much about him chanting his japa every day. In fact, I haven't read that in Bhagavatam. So he was more like into performing pious activities, which means things like giving charity to Brahmanas and things like that. So this Brahmana, I mean, if you really analyze it, thank you for asking that question. This Brahmana wanted to teach him a lesson that pious activities simply give you a temporary good result. They send you to heaven, Swarga. But then, what? Punya Marcha, Lokam Krishanti. After your good karma runs out, then you have to come back. So he wanted to teach him. Yeah. So here's the answer. So the Brahmana wanted to teach him your so-called pious activities in the mode of goodness, not transcendental, are useless. And the Brahmana taught him that because in pious activities, you can make so many mistakes. And if you make a mistake, you're not, you have to suffer for it. In Krishna consciousness, if you make a mistake, I mean, an honest mistake, Krishna doesn't hold you blame for it. Like if I make a mistake and quote the wrong verse, Krishna's not going to bash me after class. Isn't it? But if you're doing some ritual, you make a mistake. There's like a story of, what's his name? Anyway, there's a Brahmin who was trying and I forget the name of the Brahmin, but he was trying to kill Indra. I just told the story the other day. But anyway, he was trying to kill Indra because Indra had killed his son. His son's name was Visvarup. Oh yeah, the Brahmin's name was Twasta. Brahmin's name was Twasta. And Indra had just killed his son, Visvarup, because Visvarup was offering oblations to the demons. And this Brahmana wanted to create a demon who would kill Indra. So he made one little mistake. He chanted the mantra wrong, so instead of creating a demon who would kill Indra, he created a demon who Indra would kill. So that's the story. That's the problem with all these rituals. Like even your Pinda ritual and everything like that. If you make a mistake, then you may go to hell. Just like people here in Fiji, the main mistake they make in the ritual is that they leave a plate of kava and cigarettes for their forefathers. Right? Therefore, they go to hell. You understand? Not only are they not saving their forefathers, but they also go to hell. Isn't it? Your forefather is already in hell because he took kava in this lifetime. And they're giving him more kava so he can stay more in hell. And they're also giving him cigarettes so he goes doubly to hell. This is stupid. So anyway, if you make a mistake in ritualistic activities, it's a big problem. But in Krishna consciousness, Krishna understands. As it says in the Gita, every endeavor is covered by some sort of fault. And we all make mistakes, right? But because we're Krishna conscious, we're trying to be Krishna conscious, as long as our mistakes are not Vaishnava aparadas, then, Krishna understands. We're not perfect souls. So, that's the danger. So, getting back to the point, King Riga was addicted to karma kanja activities. Right? There's no mention of him worshiping the deity. There's only mention of him accumulating tons and tons of punya. And that punya is temporary. And that punya, if you do it wrong, your karma kanja activity, you do it wrong, you get the opposite result. And that's what. And so this Brahmana who cursed him understood that this guy, this Riga guy, King Riga, was really bogus. It's true. It's true. Maybe he understood, but he was attached to these ritualistic activities. So sometimes we become very attached to ritualistic activities, and we forget that we're supposed to be Krishna conscious. Just like recently, okay, a little controversy. You had an eclipse here, right? Eclipse? You had an eclipse. It was during Purnima, right? Yes. So, actually, devotee is transcendental. We can perform devotional activities. We can do all sorts of things during the eclipse. Of course, setting an example for our congregation is a different thing. So we have to consider our reputation. There's a balance. It's actually a balance there. But personally, if there's an eclipse in the middle of the night and you're not supposed to sleep, I will still go to sleep. Because I have to serve Krishna the next day. If I stay up all night listening to Rahu mantras, then I won't be able to serve Krishna the next day. But anyway, So there's all these different ritual things. And here in Fiji, you really get into all these different, like, tiny little rituals. I remember there was one person from Fiji. I was supposed to give the person an initiation, and it happened a bit harsh because I can't take initiation. So the only time I came every year was during Pitchpraksha. She never took initiation. And then after that was the Deva Paksh, is that right? So anyway, what can you do? Everyone has attachments to these things. And we have all sorts of rituals too. Like some of you, when you yawn, you snap your fingers in case your soul disappears while you're yawning. and of course we have this one ritual, and we got me started on this, where when you say Gayatri, you have to keep your Brahman thread under your cloth. Because if you don't, some demon is going to steal your mantra from you. But, so I don't find the cloth is a very effective barrier to demons. Still, we do it, but even there's many pictures of Prabhupada saying Gayatri with his finger out like that. We have other things, rituals that we do. So, anyway, so we shouldn't be so attached to these things. I mean, sometimes, yes, so the public takes us seriously, we may do these things. But other times for ourselves, the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, is more powerful than all the holy places put together. More powerful. Imagine that. Still we visit the holy places, but then it's more powerful. So the Triveni, more powerful than the Triveni, more powerful than Kumbh, more powerful than any, and it's directly Krishna, chanting the holy name. So, any other questions or comments? Anyway, it's an interesting story. I just came through this story. Thank you for asking that question, Jude, because that brought forth another point, another interesting point. Yes, Nanda.
All right. After becoming a member of this organization, and if one is still influence of Brahman and accepts worship, and still he does all the ritualistic activities of Karmakanda, is it acceptable or?
That's an interesting question. I would say depends on which ritualistic activities he does. And secondly, he may be doing that because of family tradition. I mean, sometimes you find devotees doing things because it's a family tradition. If they think the activities are going to save them, that's not good. But as long as the ritualistic activities don't violate the principles of Krishna consciousness. I mean, we have devotees who do deity worship who watch the rugby games. Don't we? Do you ever watch the rugby games? No. But I'm not going to ask around here who watches the rugby games. Because when I was in Suva, the rugby games were being played in the UK, and everybody woke up and was awake all night long, cheering in the whole ashram. Haribo, Haribo, we won. So I don't prohibit these devotees. So how can you prohibit people who do things that are not violations of principles? I mean, you have to be a little liberal with devotees. I mean, I was asked the question yesterday, what do you do when a devotee has an occupation where he has to transport, let's say if someone's a taxi driver, and you have to transport meat sometimes, what do? Anything you do in this world is going to have some connection with something bad. So we can't just keep all the devotees away. even if you go shopping in the supermarket, you're paying money to the people, and they're going to use it for the improper purposes. So, anyway, we can talk to someone who's attached to ritualistic activities. Please don't waste your time. You're better off reading the Bhagavatam than performing all these ritualistic activities. Whatever, you can't stop people. But at least they should understand that chanting Hare Krishna is transcendental. If one doesn't understand that, they're not qualified to do any sort of service. The chanting of Hare Krishna is more powerful than all the holy places, all the ritualistic activities. You can't even compare it. Some of the acharyas say if you try to even compare it, you're a rascal. So at least people should understand that. But we can't start condemning people for doing things that, they're family traditions. I mean, like if a devotee, I know in America, devotees celebrate Christmas. You can't kick them out of the temple because they celebrate Christmas. Even in the temple, we have a Christmas party, Prashada. We give gifts. That's a nice part of Christmas. I'd like that, because basically we don't have any. I don't think we have any ceremony in our movement where we give gifts to everybody. So it's better to follow that part of Christmas, right? Dadati pratigranati guyamakyati prachati pundevasatecha. Okay, I think it's time to end. It's 8 o'clock. Thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada.